JF Stretford Paddock. This is Paddock Live. Joining me, as always, is my good friend, Mr. Joe Smith. How are we doing?
What bird is that?
That is a dove. It's a dove from above.
It's a common wood pigeon, but yeah, very
Is
close.
it really?
Yeah.
Bit rude.
Why is it?
Common. Don't need to be like that.
No, that's true.
Yeah, popular is a better way of putting it than common.
Yeah, that's true,
Do you know what I mean? We've got loads of stories to get back through. Pie, whatever.
Pie.
Bye, past. Words help
Be
in
honest.
this scenario. I often find using your words helps
This
you.
has been a shambles of a start.
Yeah.
True or false, you've got a picture of a pie on your screen, which is why you just blurted out the word pie.
Some people go on Pornhub or
You go on.
OnlyFans. I go on the Greg's website.
Yeah, instead of Pornhub, you go on Pie and Mash Hub.
Hey, not pie and mash. That's proper Cockney, mate. What's the matter with you? Pie and mash.
Pie and peas.
All right, Danny Dyer.
Pie and peas.
We've got nothing wrong with Cockneys before anyone starts.
You keep talking.
What are you doing there?
Straightening this up, we just elbowed it into oblivion.
Well, why is
Go
it
on,
not on
Jake,
properly so that I can elbow it without it moving?
You keep
That's
talking.
Poor workmanship. We've got loads to get through, including some kid called Donny van der Beek, who we never talk about on this channel ever. It's like, I don't even know who he is, actually. We're going to talk about him. I've got here in my notes, Van der Beek going nowhere. That's, yeah, both metaphorically and physically. Pereira, we're going to talk about him as well, because it looks like, the pre-season Pirlo could be on his way.
Great nickname, I forgot about that.
Rashford, he's back with a vengeance, banging in the goals. Thank you. Romano as well. Stephen Howson has been talking to Fabrizio Romano. Stephen Howson does this show with Rio Ferdinand. You don't like to talk about it. It's a bit under the radar.
You should mention that more often.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And they've been speaking to Fabrizio Romano. Raphael Varane.
Yeah.
He's happy
Good lad.
at United.
But we'll have the full details in a minute.
Yeah. The Glazers have been selling shares.
remember
But the
that.
great news is none of the money's going back into the
I
club.
thought you were going to say none of it's going to the Saudi Arabian government like Newcastle is.
Oh, topical, yes.
Yes,
See that
political.
Newcastle, have gone from Mike Ashley to the Saudis, so
Can't
make of
imagine-
that what you will.
I can't imagine the journalists will be flocking to that press conference, do you? After what happened a couple of years ago.
Yes, because
Let's not say
don't want to
anymore,
get
'cause-
ourselves in trouble, but
Yeah.
it is highly likely that the Saudi Arabian government did murder a journalist. Anyway, also Nicky Butt as well. He's done an interview with Andy Mitten in The Athletic about lots of things, including why he left Manchester United in March, I think it was.
Yep.
So we'll talk about that. Should we start with Donny van der Beek?
Go on then.
Because, you love a bit of Donny van der Beek chatting, don't you?
Yeah.
It says there on the graphic, as you can see, Solskjaer reluctant, or should I say Solskjaer reluctant to sanction departure. Sources have told ESPN that Solskjaer would be reluctant to let Donny van der Beek leave Manchester United in January. Now, this is the same story that goes round and round. And also, before I forget, do get involved in the comments.
Yes.
It is live.
Yes.
Do hit like, do hit share, do subscribe. We want to get 700,000 subscribers. So do get involved, and I will get to some of your comments in a minute. But first of all, I'll just sort of briefly summarise what's going down here.
Yeah.
So, Solskjaer's not going to sanction a move in January. Right. We heard from Marcel Brands the other day, the director of football at Everton, running his mouth up, saying that, he's a lovely boy and all this nonsense and he should be given a move or whatever. What do you make of that? Are you surprised that, if it's to be believed, Solskjaer won't let him go in January? Because are we not getting to the point where I just feel I don't know if we're there yet, but it almost feels like this whole saga has just become a distraction. And it might be worth just letting him go in January if he's not going to get any game time. And we're going to have all this nonsense about him and just, throwing bibs and spitting chewing gum out. I'm not saying he's got a bad attitude. I'm just saying it just seems to become a bit silly.
What I would say about this is, yes, in theory, I agree with everything you just said there.
Yeah.
But in my head, and this is just a workplace thing, this is just a human being, a sort of human nature thing. In any workplace you've ever worked at, I'm sure the same can be said. You'll have worked in some great places and some shit places. But everywhere you've worked, there's always been an issue. We're keeping an eye on this. This guy.
What, with me?
No.
All right.
What we do, I mean,
Right.
you'll have been... How defensive.
You just said in every place you've worked, there's always been an issue.
Yeah, but I don't mean with you.
Right.
I mean generally. And in any given group of people, Oh, Donny's upset. He's not happy.
I didn't put that stationery in my boot, right? It was already there.
What do you mean it's already there? It didn't come with the car. You don't get an Epson inkjet.
Do you know how many
printer
people
with a
I give
car.
lifts to at work? I don't know who put it there.
Yeah, what, one of them big, full, 4-foot high stack printer copywriter?
Yeah.
You didn't put that in the boot of your car. Tell me you get another one. How come your hands were covered in ink?
Because I was knits the day before and got fingerprinted.
Good answer.
Right.
What I'm saying is, though, there's always a problem. Before it was Pogba. Like, the Pogba stuff's gone under the radar. If Donny leaves, people will just start talking about Pogba again. People will start talking about Mason Greenwood hasn't scored since the first 3 games of the season.
People will start
talking about Dean Henderson.
Fighting.
It's like, you talk about the harmony of the squad. If he leaves, journalists, pundits, whoever, Twitter, will find the next problem. That's what I'm trying to say. There's always a problem. There's always a boss at work that's the dickhead. There's always the person at work, she's a bit weird. Her cat smells. Whatever. He heats fish up in the microwave at lunch. There's always something. So if he goes, I don't think it'll be all of a sudden more harmonious. When you look at this squad, really, when it comes to a football team, it couldn't be much more harmonious than it is now. I can't think of many football teams where you go, everyone is happy in that squad. Look at City. They've won the league 4 of the last 5 years, is it? 3 of the last 4 years, certainly. Laporte wanted to leave. Bernardo Silva wanted to leave. Nathan Ake was unhappy. They had Gabriel Jesus, I think he wanted to leave as well. There's loads of problems there. But he gets masked over because no one cares to write about City because no one reads it. And the winning things. If Donny left, there would just be another problem that would be highlighted instead. The thing that matters for me is his game time.
Yeah.
Whether he's a valuable asset in the squad. And I think until we replace him, until we get a number 6 in, and you know, if you believe Twitter rumours, and we're not going to repeat them specifically, one may have just gone off the market. Until we get a number 6 in, I think we need him as a man to rest players, to rotate, and to play other people. Because yes, there's a problem. He can't be throwing chewing gum at Mike Phelan every week. But I think if he left, we'd just focus on Pogba or Greenwood or Henderson or Lindelof. Do you know what I mean? There'd be another issue that could be pushed to the forefront.
It's like, as well, people think like it's not like it's mutually exclusive. You can think Fred's not good enough and not know whether Donny van der Beek is the answer.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not a case of Fred's not good enough, so Donny van der Beek is good enough.
Yeah.
They might not be both ideal. You know, it depends where you stand with Fred. I think he's losing a lot of support. Yeah. Most people seem to be of the opinion he's not up to scratch and understand why. But that doesn't mean that Donny van der Beek is the answer. Now, I've said it a million times, sick of saying it, but, you know, I've only seen Donny van der Beek in about 3 games for Ajax in the Champions League. And yes, he played well, but I'm always a little bit like, okay, how much of a gauge can we get from that? Because I've not watched enough of him from that Ajax team. I mean, I saw Dusan Tadic looking amazing for that Ajax team. Yeah. But for United team, where I've seen a little bit more of him, I haven't seen enough to go, he's got to be in the team every week. And I also, from what I gather, his preferred position would probably be where Bruno plays. Yeah. So, yes, he can play in the 6, but is he good enough? Now, I think that the likes of Michael Carrick and Kieran McKenna and even Ole must look at him and know. Michael Carrick must know if someone can play in that 6 role. Mm-hmm. From what we gather, he's sort of been coaching with Scott McTominay to try and get him to sort of be a bit more an out-and-out 6. Yeah. I don't know how that's working out. I mean, so far this season, it hasn't been Scott McTominay's best spell, if I'm being brutally honest. But yeah, this whole Donny thing, it has grown and grown and grown, and I think a lot of it stems not from the fact that people are so impressed with what they've seen of Donny van der Beek. I think it's the fact that people are just getting fed up with Fred. Well, from what we see on social media, and from what I heard, a little bit of what I've heard on the ground as well, but more on social media, if I'm being honest, is the fact that people are that nights off with Fred, he just had enough of him. Yeah. It's like, Donny's there, Donny's not getting a game, get Donny in. And I think it's just adding that's what's making everyone so irate about it. I mean, there will be some people that have seen a lot of Donny and think he's the answer, I'm not saying that, but I think for a lot of people it's just a case of almost anyone but Fred, and Donny sat there, so he's the obvious choice. It's almost,
have you ever heard of it's a sort of a term referring to people who usually it's an atheist thing to say, talking about people who believe in God, calling God the God of the gaps, which basically means people who believe in God only let him fill the gaps that science so far can't fill. Yeah. The start of the universe, how species came out of nothing, that sort of thing. It's almost like Donny is the midfielder of the gaps. Yeah. The things that Fred and McTominay can't do, people just assume Donny can because he's on the bench. Yeah. Whereas, like you said, I'm not certain he can. I'm not certain. I think he's better on the ball, obviously. We know there are things he can do better than Fred. But I'm not certain if you play him every week instead of Fred and McTominay that we actually win more games.
No.
I'm not certain that that's the case because I know he's a good player, but again, the position he's best at is where Bruno Fernandes is playing. He ain't getting in ahead of Bruno Fernandes.
No.
And the position he's second best at, we don't really play anyone. We don't really play a number 8. Not the way things currently go. So I think just because he's there and Fred is shit doesn't mean that Donny can fill those gaps just because he's on the bench. I don't necessarily think that's the case, just like you said.
Right, I agree. This is the thing, and I think it's just getting a little bit out of hand now. So we'll see what happens, but it's something Ollie's got to address one way or another because we can't have this just spiralling out of... Someone's getting a bit silly. He keeps getting asked about it. We're seeing the footage and images of Donny van der Beek, and obviously everyone's asking about it and everyone's commenting on it online. So I think it's something that has to have some sort of closure, some sort of, something has to... Some resolution is the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at some of the comments here. It seems like there's a bit of a discussion going. Well, there's a lot of discussion going on. Hamish Morrison says, I think we should give him a go at 10, but when Bruno needs a rest, the problem being our structure centres around Bruno. Yeah. I mean, that might make more sense than a 6. I know when he was on, I think he was like another one who did the real thing with Steve and 5 with 5, but he said, I have played as a 6, but I think... not regularly, that's not his position.
The answer he gave wasn't particularly resounding, was it?
Wasn't like I am, it's like I can play there, I've played there, but I think he's more of a 10 in here. Kyle Chester says, off topic, I may have missed the preview update, but will the youth review be coming back? Yes, it will. Myself and Dave Pritt were back with that, hopefully after the international break, so keep it peeled for that one.
Also, Jay, do you want to explain to people that you're quite ill at the moment?
I am, yeah.
You've got a bit of a red eye as well, isn't it?
I know, I'm falling apart, it seems. I've got a cold and my eyes have gone over. I was all right an hour ago.
No.
I've just seemed to have deteriorated.
What's happened?
I don't know.
I came down here to help set the cameras up, came back up and you sounded like you're on your last legs.
I don't know, it's just one of those things. I think that it's just the coldness. Because it's cold.
That'll do it. The coldness equals the badness.
Yes. Maybe it's that. You know what I'm like on a Wednesday. Right, is it Wednesday today?
Could be.
Yeah, it is. Right, should we move on from Donny van der Beek? Because I think we've all had enough of that one, haven't we? Yes. I'm sick of talking about midfielders that haven't got a future at Manchester United. Let's talk about Andreas Pereira.
Hey.
Andreas Pereira.
He may have lost his health, but he hasn't lost his sense of humour.
Yes. Looks like United have agreed 20 million clause for Pereira, as you can see there from the graphic. Universo Online, Brazilian outlet, featured a story today saying that Andreas Pereira has a £20 million buyout clause that can be triggered in June. And, it looks like that could be about to happen in June.
We've absolutely smashed it there, haven't we?
Yeah, well, I like Andreas Pereira. Yeah, but he's not good enough.
No.
He's one of those players that does just about enough now and again to make you think he could be good enough. And I think all that's happened with Pereira is he's got to an age where you have to give up on him.
Yeah.
Like, there was a time when he was 21, 22, he send him out on loan, we call him the pre-season Perlo, he has a good pre-season. There was a time, I remember a time, something like Donny van der Beek in the 6. People were crying out for Pereira in the 6 after his pre-season when he played really well there for a couple of games. Started the season, wasn't quite happening for him. Jose fell out with him. Then he had a bit of a spell. He had a long spell under Ollie. I think he played about 25 games, didn't he, one season?
Yeah. I think it was more than that. It was 30.
Was it 30 games?
I think it was 30.
And it's hard for me to say this without it sounding very, very critical.
Without urinating simultaneously.
Yeah, exactly, because you know what I'm like.
But
I don't think I've seen a player play as many games for Manchester United in a season and play that badly for so many of them.
Yeah.
Usually, like, you'll get someone like, I don't know, an Obertan who'll get 7 games, or you'll get a Paddy McNair who might get 5 or 6. And to be fair, McNair, 2 of those were very good.
Borthwick Jackson.
Yeah, he'll have a couple of good games and then it tails off. Pereira just was at a sort of very average level.
Yeah.
And when I say average, I'm probably being a bit kind, for a good 24 games.
Yeah.
And it just nothing. He didn't do anything where you go,
do you know who
it was just not good enough for so long, and yet he played a lot of games that season.
And do you remember that stick that Ollie used to get? How does he not see it? How does he not see it? Pereira's trending after every game. Do you know what is happening again, or who that's happening again with now? Fred.
Yeah.
Everyone's saying, how does he not see Fred? Fred's got to go. Why does he keep playing him? Because he doesn't have any other options that are better. No. That's the problem. McTominay and Matic is just the most static legless thing I've ever seen. I know McTominay's got a good engine, but he hasn't got that agility and that turn in circle and that kind of frenetic sort of buzzing around that Fred does. Same with Matic. And I just don't think we have a partnership in there that is better than Fred and McTominay. Wins percentage-wise. I know they are often the most amateurish on the ball, but I think Ollie knows we can do better than Fred. And I think it's the same with Andreas Pereira.
Everyone, and I mean everyone, practically everyone we speak to online, almost everyone we speak to at the game, sort of agrees on the fact that Fred's not the level we want him to be. Yeah. I mean, there are exceptions, of course, but I can't believe that Ollie watches some of those performances and he's happy with them. I know he's not, because he brought him off the other day. Yeah. You know what I mean? That wasn't, I'm bringing you off to give you a rest, or I'm bringing you off because the game's comfortable. I'm bringing you off because you're not playing well enough.
You just gave a fucking goal away.
And we need to get a win. And it's like, Ollie must see it. He can't be blind to it. Like you say, he's sort of Pereira. It's just his options are limited. You've got to remember, we were taking off Pereira and bringing on Jesse, who was in the worst form of his life. Yeah. And that was the substitution we were making. Yeah. You know, Jesse went a whole calendar year, I think, without a goal and an assist. This isn't the Jesse we're talking about now. No. Who's, been on fire for West Ham, on fire for England, and come back scoring goals for Manchester United. This was Jesse at his worst. So I think there might be a touch of that with Fred as well. Carl Duffy says, what's your thoughts on McTominay being trained as a defensive midfielder by McKenna and Carrick? P.S. Love the work you both do on this channel. Thanks, Carl. Go on.
My opinion on that is, I trust their vision of whether he can do that. I think theoretically it's a great idea. The obvious problem is, can he do it? Is he capable of becoming a not necessarily top-class defensive midfielder, but that step below that very good, you've got a place in the team, maybe sort of Hargreaves level where you can be very effective, you do your work very well, you're never going to be called one of the best midfielders in the world, but you can do a job. Now, if we say we trust Kieran McKenna and Michael Carrick's judgment to make him that player, I mean, I can't think of a better person to judge that than Michael Carrick, someone who was, an almost perfect deep-line footballer. I think it could be great for him, because the thing with Scott McTominay at the minute is, if you think to yourself, what are Scott McTominay's best attributes? I would say his engine is very good. Agreed. He's tenacious. Yeah. He's got that sort of, I know it's not much of a sort of characteristic, or it's not a stat, but he's got a sort of a bravery and a heart to him, which always gets the crowd going. He's got that sort of thing. But I think his best thing that stands out above other players in our team is he arrives in the box very well. Especially in the last season, was it 7 goals he got from midfield?
Yeah, I think so.
That was more than Paul Pogba got.
I think he ended up level, actually.
Yeah, okay, so similar. I wouldn't say that Scott McTominay's best attribute is his defensive positioning. No. Or his tackling. No. Which is the two key things to playing that role, especially defensive positioning. That's what Carrick was, I would say, as good as I've ever seen at. He's not the tackler that Kante is or that Matic is, but his defensive positioning is impeccable, or was impeccable, Michael Carrick. And I don't know how easy it is to teach that. I think you can teach someone how to square up for a tackle, the position you need to be in, where to get your feet, the dynamic, the technicalities of actually tackling. But can you teach someone where to be in transition when you're flustered and Fred's fucked off and Varane's out of position? Can you teach that? I'm not sure you can, but theoretically, I think it's a great idea. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, in theory, I've always felt with McTominay, and I've said this a million times, that his ceiling was a little bit higher than Fred's, and the fact that he's only 24, I think that he's not like Fred's 28. I don't see him getting any better. I've always felt with McTominay, you've seen a progression, and like you say, he got a relatively decent amount of goals last season, something that, he's got in his locker. You see him, you think, okay, yeah, he's getting a little bit better each season by season, building up, bulking up a little bit. If he can kick on another level, which I've always thought he had it in him, then we could have a midfielder who's good enough for Manchester United to be a regular without having a partner alongside him in that role. But I'm not so sure. I mean, you have to almost give him a bit of time this season, because he doesn't look fully fit to me. No. And I think he has been rushed back, and I think you saw it against City, against Everton. I think he was poor. And was it Villa as well? There was two.
The Villarreal game, he was terrible. He was played as almost like a central of a midfield three, and I thought
there's 2 games this season where I've looked at McTominay and thought, this is as bad as you've been for a long time. Yeah. So I don't think he's just fallen off a cliff, his form. No. I think there's a fitness thing there, and I think that's part of the problem is you're playing players that aren't 100% fit, and they're not playing well, and then people are judging them on that. I hope that he gets a bit of rest during this international break and can come back fit as we need him. Mina in the Super Chat says, what good is Pogba if he can't use that frame and mobility of his to win us some balls in midfield? We don't need him as a number 10 and definitely not on the wing. Yeah. What do you make of Pogba on the wing? Just quickly.
I think and again, what I hate when people do is downplaying people's achievements because they don't think it represents them as a whole. But what I will say, I'm not going to knock any of the 7 assists that he's got or say they were looking at anything like that. I don't think he can maintain that throughout the season. History has shown us that was an anomaly. He's not all of a sudden gone from a 3 assists per season man to a fucking 23 assists per season man, as the trail would have led us to believe based on the amount of assists he's got in those first few games. I think Marcus Rashford is a better winger than him. I think Bruno Fernandes is a better number 10 than him. And I think, as much as it pains me to say it, he doesn't offer enough defensively in that number 6 position to play alongside our current personnel. If you've got someone of a Matuidi of 5 or 6 years ago, a Kante, a Matic of 5 or 6 years ago, you got someone like that next to him, no problem. But currently, I think he's going to struggle to find a place in our first 11 because, assuming Marcus Rashford comes back, and we'll talk about him in a minute, how he was at the start of last season, I don't know who he's better than in our current team. And I think defensively, yes, he's better than Fred as a footballer, no question, but he just doesn't offer enough. He doesn't track back. He's not willing to do that. He gives the ball away a lot. I'd worry for him a little bit. Can we just talk about something else before we move on to Marcus Rashford? Have you ever heard of Manscaped, Jay?
I have heard of Manscaped. In fact, I know about Manscaped because I use Manscaped.
Yes!
Because, you're right.
Yeah,
because I like to look after my balls.
Knob.
Yes.
As well.
The whole package. And there's exciting news, isn't there?
Go on.
From our friends at Manscaped.
What's the exciting news?
The exciting news is they've just launched their 4th generations performance package.
This is fantastic.
The ultimate package includes the lawnmower.
4.0.
No, yeah, exactly to say, not 1 or 2 or 3, but 4.0. You heard it right, the 4.0 Manscaped. Yeah. The leaders in male grooming have done it again to make your grooming game next level.
Jay.
Yeah?
Have a look at that. What do you see there?
An incredibly small penis.
No, next to that. Around that.
I'm only joking, it's massive. Nice shaven bollocks. Yes, lovely round shaven testicles. Yeah, I am well not in the mood to be talking about your balls.
Lovely and round. You didn't have to say any of that. All you had to say was well-shaven pubis.
Well-shaven pubis, that's all I've seen.
Jesus, you have to detail the whole thing.
Hey, I'll tell you now. We've all been in that situation, haven't we?
Yeah.
Where you've been in the urinal, yeah?
Right.
And you're having a wee.
Oh, yeah.
Lad comes in, stands near you, and you go, "You right, bro? Hey, what you think of that?" Yeah? And he goes, "Mate, come on. They need a shave." What's the matter with you?
Jay, when do you go to the toilet? Will you just turn and say hello?
I used to go in the park near my house, the municipal toilets, but there's a bit of an incident that had been bad. Please.
If you weren't, you could be using Manscaped because none of this cottaging nonsense. What we need to talk about is the fact you can get 20% off and free shipping using the code PaddockLive at checkout. Manscaped, the great thing is, not only will you have seen a tiny penis and a well-shaven pubis, you will have noticed there was no scarring, no scabs, no bleeding, no nothing, because they've got anti-nick technology.
That is a lifesaver. Seriously.
Products.
Hey, if it wasn't for that anti-nick technology, I would not have 3 children right now.
No.
That is a fact.
Is that true?
Maybe not.
How many would you have? Tons more. Tons more.
But listen, when you're down there doing your thing, you don't want to be nicking yourself and hurting yourself and getting into all sorts of mischief.
No.
And you don't have that with Manscaped because they're anti-nick technology. And also, if you like one of those gymnastic type people and you can smell yourself down there after you've used all this gear, it smells delightful. Or if you've got someone who can do it for you.
Yeah.
Because you've got the ball toner, yeah? You've got the crop preserver, yeah? You've got the Manscaped liquid formulations, yes? We've got into this.
Get out!
Your balls will thank you if you use this. And all this comes in a travel bag with some boxers in the shed travel bag. So you can pretend like we always do, like we're getting off the coach for the big game with our Manscaped travel bag. As you were saying, use the code PaddockLive, and you get 20% off, free shipping as well, which is fantastic.
It really is fantastic.
Your balls will thank you.
Yes.
Yep. So thanks to Manscaped as well for sponsoring this show.
Fantastic.
Anyway,
I love that.
back to the business of Scott McTominay in a defensive midfield role. So we all agreed then that that's going to happen then.
He's
going to get coached and he's going to become the next Claude Makelele.
Love that.
Yeah?
Brilliant.
Sorry,
Michael Ballack, maybe size-wise.
Oh, nice. Nicely done.
He was a number 8, but he had a real solidity to him.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? I'm not saying he's going to be, you know, a revolutionary type player in the DM role, but I think he could be potentially our greatest ever midfielder.
Yeah, if he could be half the player that Guendouzi was. Then when people were saying Guendouzi was going to be the next big midfielder, they sold him for, guess how much?
Go on.
£3 million. See you later.
Arsenal are just deluded, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like, as soon as a player has, like, a good 45 minutes, they'll say things like, you know, oh, Mbappe, you know, time to come outside and all that rubbish.
Speaking of Mbappe, time to come outside, and we mean it, Marcus Rashford.
Oh,
Back
nicely
from injury,
done.
playing
Nicely
behind closed doors.
Yeah.
We had it, not quite from the horse's mouth, but from close enough, Stephen Howson's mouth, and I know his source on this, and it's very, very accurate. Marcus Rashford scored a brace today in a behind closed doors game against Blackburn, which was some conversation whether it was at Old Trafford or was it
No, it was at Carrington. I've got that confirmed. It was at Carrington. Yeah, like I say, 3-0 win over Blackburn Rovers. Marcus getting some much needed game time. And, you know, I've been to these, I don't like to talk about it, but I've been to these behind closed doors games. And they're not like, people say, oh, it's just a friendly and people, you know, players don't try, whatever. They do. Like, this is your chance to get proper fit, to give the manager a bit of something to think about. And they're treated like proper games whenever I've seen them. So don't think that this is just going to be Blackburn Rovers taking it easy on him. I know they're obviously not a Premier League team, but it's still going to be a very competitive game. He's coming back from an operation, getting his brace, which is good for him. And any attacker likes to get goals, is the most obvious statement I can ever say. And we need Marcus Rashford. You did a fantastic video, Joe.
Thank you very much.
Yesterday, go and check that out. And it was talking about how Rashford can help catapult us towards a title charge,
at
hopefully.
least back to form.
Yeah, because there's loads of reasons why Marcus Rashford is important, as you listed in your video. And I think that there is an element of whoever's missing is the one we all look to.
Yeah.
If Bruno was out now, we'd be going, when Bruno comes back, when Pogba, you know, whoever it is, you look, like when things aren't going well, you go, oh, we really need him. But as the graphic shows, Marcus Rashford is an effective player. He was highly effective last season, very productive in terms of goals and assists, turns up in a lot of the big games, gets the crowd going, does all the stuff you've spoken about, I don't need to go into it.
Yeah,
and he's just one of those players that we all love.
Yeah.
I know he gets his critics sometimes, but Marcus Rashford's my favourite player, and I can't wait to see him back in a Manchester United shirt in front of a packed Old Trafford. Yeah. Because, you know, he's not been back there yet.
No.
Since we've had all the restrictions lifted.
Oh, yeah, I've not even
so it's like, you know, we've seen Cavani in front of a packed Old Trafford finally. Yeah. We've seen, you know,
Bruno,
obviously Ronaldo. Yeah, Bruno's had it a couple of times. Ronaldo's obviously come back and had it. Marcus is going to get such a reception if he's hopefully back at Old Trafford for the Scousers. I'm buzzing.
Yeah. You see there as well, scoring twice in the game. I think, again, I go into it more in that video if you check that out. Hopefully we can put the link in the description to that. If not, just go in the channel. It was only yesterday. Watching United without him, I know Sancho's still breaking his way into the team. Excuse me. And he did do this a little bit more in the last game when he came on against Everton. But what Rashford does that no one else in the team does, especially when Martial's off form, he used to do this, but he hasn't done this in close to 2 years now. He drives at players. He takes people on. He dribbles past people. He squares up his fullback. He knocks it past him, and he gets it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. He has that link up with Luke Shaw. I don't think it's a coincidence that Luke Shaw has been playing worse this season without Marcus Rashford. He doesn't look quite as good going forward. Defensively, I'm not putting that on Rashford not being there because, you know, you've got to put a shift in defensively. But he hasn't had that same timing, that same synergy with Paul Pogba as he has with Marcus Rashford. Rashford is a breath of fresh air to this team. And that pace he brings, that drive, that willingness to go at his defender, we've really been missing that. I know Mason, he likes to step over in a shot, but he's not really... He doesn't knock it past his man, run down the line and cut it back like the way Marcus does. I'm so excited to get him back on that left-hand side. And what annoys me is I've seen some articles in the last few days since the rumours of him stepping up his training have been basically confirmed. Articles saying, another headache for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Another headache with the return of Marcus Rashford. Honestly, fuck off. Like, how is it a headache? One of our best, if not our best player, alongside a couple others maybe, is coming back. That is a good thing for United. Don't let people tell you it's a headache and a problem for, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Let's not start talking shite. No. Marcus Rashford is a massive player for Manchester United and will improve this team. That's a fact. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, you took his goals and assists out of that team last season who are you relying on? You're looking at the next one closest to him was, I think it was Cavani?
Yeah, well, it was Bruno first and then
Rashford, and then it was like, was it Cavani or Martial on about 8 or
goals,
something? And, you know, 4 in the league. So let's not get it twisted here. Marcus Rashford, he's a highly effective player. He's not without his, you know, flaws. I'm not saying he's perfect, but he has been getting better and better each season. I think he's had 20-odd goals both last 2 seasons as well, back-to-back. That's very impressive. And I think still, people forget he's only, what, is he 24 this month?
Well, yeah.
24 this month? Yeah. So he's 23 until he's 24. So, for me, he's got another level. And if he can be fit and play when he's fit, because he's always playing when he's got a knock, or he's got his ankle, he needs an operation, but he's going to put it off to the summer, all this other drama that he's got going on. If he can play when he's actually fit, I think he's going to be a terrifying prospect.
Yeah.
Crypto Prince from the Super Chat says, Rashford idolises Ronaldo. I have a feeling those two working together on the left side of the pitch is going to be amazing and work wonders even. Thanks for that Super Chat as well, big Super Chat.
Yeah, cheers for that.
I can't wait to see those two playing together.
Yeah, me too.
I think that's just sort of like fairy tale stuff.
I
Do you know what I mean?
say
Really
that,
is.
Rashford doesn't think to pass the ball first or whatever. He got 15 assists last season.
Yeah, that's just people talking rubbish.
That's a lot of assists. In all competitions, he got 15 assists. He's a very creative player. I know he likes to drive at players and he can be selfish at times, but 21 or 22 goals, I can't remember exactly what it was, and 15 assists last season. That's a very, very good player.
There's a couple of other Super Chats, sorry, that I missed out earlier on. Danny Dillinger says, do you think Bruno can play as a 6?
No.
I wouldn't want him to.
Yeah, exactly.
Forget
I don't think
that.
he should, whether he can or not.
The guy's got, 4 goals this season already from open play. No, I wouldn't want to see him move that deep.
No.
Surav Mukherjee says, is Rio talking to Ollie? Curious to know what is going on through Ollie's mind. He is losing the plot, and it's sad to hear, but Ollie is not doing any favour to him. I mean, I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is not without his criticism this season. I've criticised Ole Gunnar Solskjaer this season. And I think if you look at the games we had, the fixtures, I don't think losing, 3 of those games and 2 draws is good enough.
No,
I don't. And I think you have to look at the manager for those results, a lot of those results as well. There's mitigating circumstances for some of them, like the 10 men against Young Boys and a last-minute mistake by Jesse, or, the West Ham game, you can go, okay, it's only maybe Jadon Sancho is a first-team player, or whatever.
Penalty miss.
Yeah, penalty miss and all that, but it isn't good enough, and the manager has to take some responsibility. But I'm not quite on the feeling that he's lost the plot.
No.
I don't think now we go, he's done, that's it. I think he's got a very, very big month coming ahead.
Yeah.
I think you look at Leicester, the Scousers at home is massive. Seriously. Jobs are won and lost on those games. They really are. Ask Brendan Rodgers and Jose Mourinho. Then you've got, I think, is it Spurs and then City, and plus 2 Champions League games you really need to win. Yeah. So it's a huge month. If he comes out of that month with 3 wins and a couple of draws, potentially, I think he'd be right. If he loses sort of most of those games, he's in real trouble. Yeah. And I take no pleasure in saying that. Shall we move on then from the king? This is Marcus Rashford, the real leader of the opposition. Fabrizio Romano. Have you heard of him?
Yeah.
Some journalist. Let's talk about transfers and that.
I know him.
Don't you hate the way everyone's using like "here we go" to announce all sorts?
Yeah.
It's like,
Didn't Adam Patterson say that when he announced he was getting a new job? Didn't he say "here we go"?
Adam Patterson, probably. I think it's like, here we go, man convicted of murder. Like, what? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Here we go, troops advance on Afghanistan. That was one of them, wasn't it? No. Like, here we go was like the exiting from Kabul or wherever it was. Jesus Christ. It was just like, it's getting a bit silly, but the original here we go is Fabrizio Romano. Yeah. He says January signing will be complicated. Fabrizio Romano spoke with Stephen Howson on Gazzetta.
Let me stop with this. Skip to the next. What's the next graphic we've got on this?
Right.
I think it would not be easy. Skip to the next one.
Okay.
What we got? Look, I mean, because no offence to Fabrizio Romano, we love him. We get him on the channel, we speak to him, we like him. Sell some players, then it'll be possible to, isn't it? It's not much. What he's saying is, it might be a bit tricky to get someone, but the thing is,
right, and I understand what you mean here.
Yes.
But what else can he say?
No, I'm not.
And I know you're not having a dig at him.
I'm not.
I get it, because I've watched Romano and I've seen him do a lot of interviews, and we've had him on the channel 3 or 4 times. Yeah. And I like talking to him, and he's a passionate guy, and he's a nice guy as well. And, whenever he comes on, he's always good value. But, there's only so much he can say. And it's like, January, if a deal is to be done in January, it is going to be complicated, it is going to be unlikely. We probably are going to have to sell players to bring someone in. So I expect him to say all that. So you look at it and you go, do we really need Romano to tell us that? We could probably tell ourselves that. Yes, we could, but when you hear it from someone like Romano, who's got all that reputation, and we know he's got contacts and stuff, it just solidifies what you already expected,
Yeah, and
to
that's
be honest
the
with
thing.
you.
I'm not knocking what he's saying or the validity or the truth of it. What I'm saying is, because we've got it here because I wanted to talk about it, but I think the thing to say is, like you said, you could have kind of guessed this, but yes, it is nice to have that confirmed by Romano. To buy, we're probably going to have to sell. And maybe that's where Donny van de Beek comes into play. Because I think Jesse Lingard's just stepped above him in the pecking order, and now you've got another asset that, you know, as much as Donny van de Beek hasn't maybe worked out at United so far, and I'm not ruling that out, if he does want to leave in January, I still think you could get the best part of what we paid for him back for him and put that towards a number 6.
No, I agree. Someone in the comments saying about Sam Homewood doing an interview with Sir Alex Ferguson. Yeah, he has done. Sam, he obviously used to be a presenter on Full Time Devils, as we recall then. Great guy, Sam. Was lucky enough to interview Sir Alex Ferguson. Well, lucky enough. Some of us have already done it, mate. Right, shall we move on from Romano? Because...
Is that a joke by Farah there?
What?
Ali is destroying the young lads like Donny and Jesse. Is that a joke?
Yes.
It's got to be, isn't it?
Of course it is. Like, that's it. It's that ongoing joking that everyone says Jesse's young, or that people are accused of saying that Jesse's young. Yeah. So, you know, I don't think... I mean, there are probably people out there that think Ollie's destroying the youngsters. But I think that's nonsense, and I certainly don't think, you know, Jesse Lingard at 28 years old falls into the category of youngsters. Although, you know, he's still quite young. He's only a year younger than me. Right, we'll move on to happier statements from a happy man.
This is more like it, Jay.
Varane, enjoying being out of the comfort zone. Raphael Varane has spoken about his new life in England and the start to his Premier League career via L'Equipe. I've loved Raphael Varane. I think he's an absolute Rolls Royce of a defender. Didn't realise how good he was when he was at Madrid. So yeah, he's very good. But like when you actually see him week in, week out, actually watching him properly, you realise he's mint. I think he suffered a little bit, especially in the Everton game. The midfield going missing a little bit.
Yeah,
he was probably, if we're going to be, I won't say overly critical, but be honest, he was trying a little bit hard, wasn't he, with some of his passing, I thought, in that game to try and make things happen himself. But overall, I've been very impressed with him. Yeah. Very impressed with him, and I think we're lucky to have him. I think that the thing is as well, he's still settling. He's still settling in England. He's still settling in the Premier League. He's still getting used to it. And I think it's probably been beneficial for him, the fact that we've not had one of the biggest teams first in his time at the club. We've had, you know, was it Southampton or Wolves he made his debut? I forget which one it was. Yeah. And then he's had, like, you know, sort of mid-table, sort of top 8 teams. Then you've got the big teams coming up, by which time hopefully Maguire could be back. We don't know how long that's going to be, but the sooner the better because we need him. But no, Raphael Varane, he's done what he says on the tin, hasn't he? Yeah. He's just been mint, and, you know, I've been very impressed. And I think when you've got a player like Varane in your team, you've always got a chance of winning games, even though we haven't been keeping any clean sheets. No, it's not his fault.
I like this how he says, I enjoy playing, getting out of my comfort zone, looking for new benchmarks in relation to my teammates. It's another way of defending. It's super interesting to me. And I believe that way of defending that he's learned since being at Man United is not defending. I think that's what Luke Shaw and Fred and a few others have been doing recently. That way of defending that he's talking about, that's super interesting. Hey, Luke, I was just thinking, it's super interesting. Do you know how you don't track back or block any crosses? I just found that really interesting.
It's super interesting. It does seem like it's like damning with faint praise. It's Fred,
do you know how you give the ball away all the time and you can't tackle people? I just find that so interesting. Just a little thing that you do, isn't it? I'm just such a wacky guy. Anyway, see you later. I feel like it's that.
We've got another way of defending at United. It's called concede.
It's called concede.
We concede goals.
Yeah.
And we don't track back, and we don't pick people up on corners, and we don't do those sort of things. We do it differently here. Yeah. In Manchester, we do things differently.
If someone came up to you didn't really know and went, "Oh, hi, Jay," and you said, "Oh, I like your jacket," and they went, "Thank you," and they went, "That jumper's interesting."
Super interesting.
Yeah.
Fucking chilling, mate.
But yeah, it's good that he's happy, isn't it?
Yeah, I like Varane.
He is anyway.
You know, we're spoiled brats at Manchester United. We know that. We know we are. And I know that fans of other clubs will be looking at us going, United fans, you've got Ronaldo, you've got Varane, you've got Sancho, you're moaning that you're 2 points off top and moaning about your manager and you're moaning about everything. You've got 76,000 fans at the stadium and all this other stuff and you're moaning. When you see someone like Varane, you think there are, you know, reasons to be very grateful to be a Manchester United fan, but there's high expectations. That's part of being a United fan. We're used to winning Premier Leagues and challenging for Champions Leagues and winning Champions Leagues and being one of the biggest and best clubs in the world. So that's why we expect to be challenging all the time.
Speaking of people who are used to winning leagues, oh no, I've skipped one here.
No, yeah, we'll get to him in a minute. Speaking of moaning,
yeah, that's better.
Yeah,
yeah.
The Glazers have been taking money out of the club again.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a face you'd never tired of punching, isn't it, eh? Is that Joel or Avram or the other one?
I think that's Joel.
Is it?
Yeah.
Says it, Glazers to make 130...
No, that's Avram,
That's
isn't it?
Avram, innit,
Yeah,
eh?
it's Avram.
Glazers to make 137 million in United's share sale. I had this in my news this morning, but we'll have it again. The Glazers are about to cash in up to 137 million with their second major share sale this year without weakening their ownership of the club. Lots of things to unpick with this one. They're not going to weaken their ownership of the club.
No.
Club, even. The money's not going back into the club, by the way. It's going into their pockets, so there's a fucking surprise. Yeah. Also, I think the people involved, the Glazers
here we go.
Kevin and Eddie.
Yeah, I like this.
Who the fuck are they?
Yeah, all these Glazers popping up you never even heard of. I knew Malcolm, I knew him.
Yeah.
I knew what I had with Malcolm.
It's like a new strand of COVID. It's like a new strand of Glazer.
Yeah, he's gone.
Yeah.
I know Joel because he's your Super League. I know Avram because he's your this one.
Even
He's your
Darcy,
commentator.
you sort of knew, didn't you? Because he's the sister.
Yeah.
You've got that.
And then now there's like Eddie Glazer.
It's like,
like Johnny Glazer, Phil Glazer. All these people turn up.
Shaniqua Glazer.
Yeah. Who's she? She married into the family. But like, who are these people who have just got hundreds of millions of quid worth of Man United in their pocket? I've never even heard of it. What was it? Ed Glazer?
Fucking parasites, man. They're just never ending. They're just sucking money out of the club.
How is there so many of them?
Oh, there just is. And you know, this shit as well about, we're going to speak to the fans, and I respect the fans for them and the job they've done. And finally getting Joel Glazer to talk to us. Yeah. I think we've had, a couple of meetings, or like 2 meetings in 16 years, but they have been recently. Yeah. But again, we're talking about, we want shares in the club, we want to be able to buy him. And he said, it's going to be complex. We'll make it unfucking complex and get it done. So yeah, they've been selling. They're down at 69%, I think, in terms of ownership of the club, so they're not going anywhere. They're still on, obviously more than enough to run the club the way they want.
They own all of the specific class of shares.
Yeah, the class, because a lot of the shares they sell are like the ones where you don't get voting rights and you don't get this, you don't get the other.
Why would you even buy them? Just because they're going to be worth a bit more. You're not trying to take over the club. You just want to.
Yeah, I presume that you buy them because you can sell them for a bit more money if the value of the club goes up. I'm probably the last person to ask about financial. Do you know what? Get involved in the comments. Would you like us to get someone on the channel? We know a couple of financial experts. Was that something that interests you? Going over that, or is that a bit like really? A
bit dry bones.
Yeah, because I think we've got a couple of people that get involved who are literally, financial experts, not just Google it. Maybe we can have a look at the Glazers' finances, what it means, and whether we can get out of this hole that we're in with them. Yeah. That might make an interesting vid. Rebecca Jade O'Sullivan says, why can't those shares be paid into paying off our debt, seeing as though they bought it with our money? It's our money. The Glazers have never if you spent any money at United, on United whatsoever, whether you've bought a pie at Old Trafford or a shirt, or you've just, subscribed to Man Utd for a month or anything, if you spent 1p, you have spent more of your own money on Manchester United Football Club than the Glazers have. They've spent nothing, and they're making themselves 137 million fucking quid a month, whatever it is they've done. Maybe not that much, but you know what I mean. You get it, don't you, bro?
I get the intel.
From one extreme, from one bunch of twats, to an absolute legend.
Love that.
Nicky Butt.
Nicky Butt.
Yes.
Buttocks.
Right, we'll stop that right now. Right. That's not going to be a thing.
Yeah. Sorry.
He's given an interview in The Athletic. Andy Mitten as well, who's a good guy, gave me my first ever job selling United We Stand. He spoke about leaving Manchester United because there was lots of rumours, wasn't there, Joe? Yeah. Remember me and you were stood over there when we used to film over there when he left. I think it was last March, was it?
Yeah.
And there's lots of rumours. So don't get on with John Murtagh, or he's unhappy that he's been passed over for the job that Murtagh or Darren Fletcher got, or whatever. And he's addressed that.
Shall I read it?
Yeah, go on. You can read that, bro.
He said, I felt I was pretty much at the end of my road. At the end of the road. I went back before Sir Alex retired and had 9 or 10 years coaching. My first job was assistant coach of the reserves with Warren Joyce. I managed the reserves when Joycey left. Then I was the academy manager. Then I went to the head of the first team development. From there, I couldn't see where my next step was. That's Nicky Butt talking about leaving. It's interesting that, isn't it? Because you would assume the next step from there would be either some sort of role like Darren Fletcher's role, where technical director, or maybe your first team coach like a Carrick or a McKenna or that kind of thing. They seem to be the sort of the two options. Either sort of go upstairs a little bit, or you sort of come back into the training ground and do that. But seemingly, he was overlooked for that role because whether it's coincidence or not, it was around the time when Murtagh and Fletcher were announced that Nicky Butt left his role, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So it's almost as though that kind of feeling of I've been overlooked for the job I wanted. I didn't feel like I had a chance of getting it anytime soon, so I decided to leave. I'm putting those words in his mouth. That's just my sort of suggestion, interpretation of what's happened there. But sort of piecing drawing the dots together. That's the picture I've put together in my head. Whether that's true or not, we can all make our own minds up on that. But yeah, it's a shame, really, isn't it, that he felt like there wasn't anywhere for him to go after his role there, and maybe the club didn't value him the way they should have. What do you reckon to it all?
I love Nicky, but the thing is, right, and I'm not. This is probably, you're in a packed field here, but this is the least insightful thing I'm ever going to say.
Go on,
You don't know what goes on behind the scenes. You don't know. Like, I love Nicky Butt, and I think he was a fantastic player, and I think he's, one of the best midfielders I saw for a certain period of time. I wouldn't put him up there with the Keanes and the Robbos and the Scholeses. No. He's probably the next level. Do you know what I mean? He is in that sort of very, very good level and did a very good job for us in so many games and won lots of trophies. But that doesn't necessarily mean he was an amazing coach.
Yeah.
If it just went on how good you were as a player, Brian Robson would have been the best manager in the history of association football.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Or Roy Keane would have been an amazing coach.
Yeah.
I don't know. He might be. I don't know. So you look at it, you go, someone like Nicky Butt, club legend, I'd want to see him stay at Old Trafford. And I would have liked him to stay at Old Trafford.
Yeah.
But I don't know what's gone on there, and I don't know why, he has moved on, and whether that is, that was for the best. If he couldn't work under the current system, I don't know if it was a fallout with John Murtaugh. There's just too many unknowns for us to be certain. Like, if we knew for definite that the reason he left was because him and John Murtaugh didn't get on, I'd be annoyed, because out of the two, I'd rather Nicky Butt stay than John Murtaugh. Yeah. Because even though I don't know a lot about Nicky Butt as a coach, I know enough about him to know that he's had success as a coach, and he's a Manchester United person, where John Murtaugh isn't any of those things.
Yeah.
So just too much conjecture to know.
Yes.
He's saying the right things. He's not really bitter. I read the full interview in The Athletic. Go and check that out. He's not really bitter. It sounds like he's saying the sort of things that you'd expect him to say. And who knows, maybe one day he might even come back, I don't know. But it does seem a little bit sad that he moved on, because it was quite an exciting time on it when you had Carrick, McKenna, Fletcher, Butt, Solskjaer, Phelan. You felt like, these are all people that know United and United legends and the DNA and all that jazz. But it's not to be. Just looking at some super chats, Nick Albany says, the promise for a fan forum this transfer window, now they are selling shares. Progress at least, I guess. Oil Sheik or some prince isn't great either. I agree with that. Philip Mersh in the super chat says, please get a financial person to discuss this stuff. That would be interesting. I love you guys, big fan. But you do my head in when you guys talk about ownership and finance. Glazer out. I'm not even going to argue that, fair enough. I don't know a lot about the financial side of things, so we will happily get a financial expert in. If we can maybe do a video on that as a bit of a one-off. I don't see why not. Like unpick the bones of the financial shenanigans that are going on with the Glazers at Manchester United and see how likely they are to sell up, and whether it is just an oil prince that's the answer, or could there be another way forward, and hopefully a way that doesn't see us go down that route that Newcastle Football Club have taken as well. What do you make of that, just quickly?
Awful.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, if Man United were being bought by, I believe it's the Saudi, the Saudi fund, which is basically owned by the Saudi government, I'd really have to question ever going to games again.
No, it's a line in the sand for me as well, bro. Yeah, that's
that.
I think I got into one with, I think it's Sam Lee actually. I get on with now, but. We went back and forth about City's owners and stuff, and he was saying, what would you do if that was at United? About, like the Saudi owners, and I said, for me, that's a line in the sand. I hate the Glazers, but, and I'm not praising them, but they're not, as far as I know, any sort of part of a murderous regime. They're just horrible business people who take lots of money out of my club. If my club was used to distract from human rights abuses, that I wouldn't be happy with being, sort of part of that, sort of, oh, well, it's not to do with me. Do you know what I mean? I don't know, I'm not really feeling it. I'm not judging anyone who said, I'm going to stick it out. I get that. I've said the same about the Glazers myself. I'm going to stick it out. It's my club. But for me, that would be a line in the sand. Do get involved and give us a subscribe as well. If you're not doing, hit subscribe. I think there's a link in the chat. Subscribe. Let's get us to 700,000 subscribers. Yeah?
See.
We can do this. We're on 610,000, I think. I want to get 700,000 by the end of the season. It's doable. United are going to win the league, the FA Cup, the the Champions League, and we get 700,000 subscribers in the same week.
The robber there, was there no Premier League piss take, or did I miss it? There wasn't one this week. Adam McCullough wasn't very well, so we're going to have to come back
dropping like
after the
flies
list
here.
again.
Well, hang on a minute. He wasn't well, so he didn't do Premier League per se. Huh? But when I'm not well, we do Paddock Live. You know what that is, don't you?
Replaceable.
Racial.
That's it. That is it. You're right there. If you haven't already, check out the merch as well, paddockmerch.com. We've got Fernando's shirt here, which I like. We've got loads of other stuff as well. We've got new stuff coming very soon as well. Check out paddockmerch.com if you haven't already.
Yes, big shout out to Manscaped. Thank you for sponsoring us. Don't forget as well, it's Paddock Live, 20% off, terms and conditions apply, free shipping as well. That's been Joe Smith. Go and check him out, Joe Smith 93 on all your socials. Yeah? Yeah? Good lad. Make sure you check out that Marcus Rashford video we did as well. Yeah, really Very good indeed, and I can't wait to see Marcus. This has been Stretford Paddock Live. I've been Jay Matty. It's been Joe Smith. Thanks for watching.